Shabbat Shalom, Sabbath blessings, and almost Happy New Moon. And I think I mentioned this last week. This new moon is the month of Elul, and a wonderful month of it's getting ready for the next month of the new year and the birthday of creation. So this is a time of kind of doing some process of cleansing and uplifting and checking in and returning if you've been off the path in some way. And it's also that time for a sense of God as the beloved and meeting with the divine in a way that feels intimate. And there's the comment about meeting God in the field, and to be in a place of truly speaking from the heart as speaking to a beloved. And with a certain earnestness, looking at what's calling to be shifted, what's calling to wake you up and bring you home and return you to the path and return you to alignment and intimacy with the divine. And that is the divine within as well as whatever thought of the divine out there. And it is to me it is beautiful. There are a couple of traditions that are customary. One is to blow the shofar every single day. As somebody who cannot blow the shofar, when I tried the ram's horn, my face turned very red and it barely made a sound. However, compliments of YouTube, I can listen to the shofar every day. And the shofar is a wake-up call. The shofar is that loud blast that clears away the cobwebs, that clears away the mundane, that says, wake up and show up and be here. And opens up not just, opens up at the heart level as well. In fact, the different sounds of the shofar connect with, according to some people, wailing and feeling shattered and all these things, and bringing it together into wholeness. So it's a very powerful potential energy, and I know hearing the shofar, I do feel like something shifts in a big way. Every time I hear it, it's almost like whatever noise there has been, whatever's been going on, moves into some other place. So every day, listen to the shofar is one of the traditions. And the other is to repeat Psalm 27 every day. And Psalm 27 has some absolutely beautiful passages in it. It speaks to all the things we face and the struggles we have, and yet that the divine is there and coming home. There's a couple of songs or chants, at least a couple for Psalm 27. One is Achat Sha'alti, one thing I ask of you, my God, is that I may gaze upon your beauty and dwell within you all the days of my life. And the beauty of that, for me, is powerful. The beauty of that is very powerful. That sense of whatever else is there, the grief that just was, this place of to gaze upon the beauty and to dwell within you. And then another passage is Lachama Libi, which is my heart calls out to seek the divine, and there is this response of I am seeking your face, I am seeking your presence, and whatever else is going on, whatever has been, again, that sort of longing and intention to be in alignment and in connection and one with and whole with the divine within, the divine without, as one. So I love this month, and there's something very precious about that intimate feel that goes along with it, and this place of truly opening the heart, and whatever has, which inevitably things do that seem to pull things away or bring in doubt or bring in pain or bring in cloudiness, that particularly that shofar piece is such a wonderful awakening each day and reminder that creation is occurring every single moment, every single day, and you are a part of that. You are a co-creator. And Elul. And then the Torah portion is Ra'eh, which is just a Shema, the whole thing about that the Torah portion focused on listening and the importance of listening. This one starts with look, with see, and particularly to see, to distinguish blessing and curse. And with that, to choose blessing. And the very famous line that people hear periodically, to choose life for you and for your children. And that is a beautiful piece of this, is to, again, be aware of creation in every moment and the choice in every moment, and to look upon the blessing and to choose life. We always have filters in how we see things. It's kind of the human condition. If you're in a painful place, the way you see the world is different than when you're in an ecstatic place. I know when I'm in a depressed place, the colors, which I adore colors, seem to suddenly drain, and nothing seems as bright. And sometimes when you're feeling wonderful, everything seems so big and so bright and so amazing. And to be aware of the fact that we are always gazing through a certain lens, and to have a discernment and an awareness of what are we gazing through, and how to be responsible for what we see and for our insight and for how we choose to look at things and act in response to that. So in terms of blessing and curse, there are the things that they talk about as blessing and curse, but there's also just even, can you in a way see through the eyes of blessing? And even when there's something that may feel like a curse, can you find a way to see the blessing? And I do not mean by that you pretend something bad is not bad, or something that ought to have all of us in an uproar doesn't, but that you don't lose sight of that blessing of that moment in each moment, that you can call up into your vision, in your visionary screen, how to move into blessing, how to be a part of blessing. Because if you're in the place of cursing, all that is cursing upon cursing. It's my interpretation. I don't think the Torah would quite go there. And to be able to go back to that, and each time you do that, it is a choosing life. And again, not just choosing life for yourself, but every choice point, every way you look at things and see things, and teach that to your children and your children's children, and bring that out in the world and bring that into your relationships, has a profound impact, so that you can choose life for you and your children and for all. You can choose blessing. That what you say, more of the hearing thing, what you do, what you focus on, comes from a place of choosing life. And so that's one piece of this Torah portion, is very much about the sense of sight and bringing that more powerfully alive into that returning, into that entering into Elul, to see. And they even talk about that God can be in the field, so to speak, in that terminology, and it's easy to totally miss it because, or the king is in the field, because if the king or queen isn't in fancy attire and isn't obviously being king or queen, it's easy for us not to notice and to be looking more carefully and looking more heartfully. And I would say that's true whether that's the king, queen in the field or the homeless person on the side of the road, is to see and not to shut down or to turn away, or to not see all there is, to see the beauty that's there and to see the things that are painful, to see where you can make a difference and to see where you can receive. There's another piece with this Torah portion, which for me is kind of difficult. It's not really addressed the way I think of it so much in the Torah portion, but it is something that I started to think about lately, especially, with all the, well, I don't want to get in a whole political discussion. Tempting, but I don't want to get in a whole political discussion. But when I think about certainly indigenous peoples, that there is this clarity that the promised land, the land of Canaan, even when the spies came in, was already inhabited. That it wasn't empty land, that this bunch of Israelites who were freed from Egypt just entered into. It was somebody else's land. And in this Torah portion, it particularly talks about destroying one of the big curses. In fact, the big curse that's focused on is idolatry, idol worship, creating idols. And this Torah portion especially talks about destroying all of that with the Asherim, and that comes from Asherah, who was initially, before it became monotheistic, in that whole area, in that whole time period, in a way that Yud, He, Vav, He, and Asherah were consorts. They were equals, and they were part of that. And then there was this whole awful wiping it out. And she's still, and that those pieces are still there. The menorah, which is still the primary, more than the Jewish star, the primary symbol. The menorah is a tree, and which is Asherah, that there were always the trees. And even in the temples that were built, there were these trees that kind of sneakily remembered her, that they were set up as a way to, I don't know that they would say to honor her, but there they were. And so this teaching is, to say troubling would be, and I know teaching this portion is troubling to me in that, one, there was this disregard for the fact that this was somebody else's land, and somebody else who, these women particularly, who made this a land of milk and honey, who poured their heart into creating this. And these people, my ancestors, kind of came in and said, it's mine, and this is ours, and this is what God said was ours. I'm hoping some of my ancestors were with Asherah as well, but I have to deal with the fact that that's part of my ancestry. And the painful piece about that in all of this beautiful going into the promised land, that there is this other piece that to me needs to be acknowledged. There's another side to this story that needs to be acknowledged. And along with that, in this Torah portion, there's a lot of talk about simcha, which is a word for joy. And Rabbi Sachs even says that simcha is a communal joy. It's a joy that is shared. In fact, it's used in terms of, like, a wedding is a simcha and a bar mitzvah is a simcha. All the big parties are a simcha. It's a shared joy. And that word is brought up, or some variation is brought up several times in this Torah portion, to have that sense of joy and to hold that sense of joy and to let it be present, let it be part of the shared experience, not just a bunch of rules and following a bunch of commandments, but being in that place of joy. And then you have another word for joy, which is ashrei, asherah, same root, which is more of an individual joy, but also every morning there's an ashrei prayer that talks about that joy that's there. And so to me, it's interesting that there are those two aspects of joy, and in a strange way, there's this conflict that goes on between them. And the other piece, as a more interpretive thing, is to look at that idols as the ways that we move away from faith, either because we feel really good or because we feel really bad, and we look to something outside of ourselves to make us feel better, to make us feel secure and protected, something to aggrandize ourselves even more, or kind of that show to the world, that we tend to go outside of ourselves and our own sovereignty and our own divinity at times, and to come back from that, to return from that don't let something outside of yourself be what you're worshiping, something that's not a part of you. So with that, I invite you to close your eyes and just breathe. And breathe in your embodied presence, your connection to yourself, your own sovereignty, your own divinity. Excuse me. Excuse my dogs. And breathe out. I'm going to wait a second until this is hopefully dismissed. I'm sorry. We'll try again. Let's go back to the breathing. Barking and breathing don't usually go hand in hand for meditation. So letting yourself breathe, coming back to yourself, letting your breath bring you back to yourself. And then when you breathe out, to let that expand, and to think of that even in terms of that ashrei, that sense of that personal inner joy. And then as you connect out, the simcha, that shared joy. And then I would invite you to imagine that you are in a beautiful field with wonderful grasses and wildflowers, butterflies and bees, trees around you. And the air is just the right temperature. And the sky is just the right, clear and blue and cloudy. And as you are in this field, there are some other people around, almost as if they're all doing their own picnic. But they're not really interacting. You are just aware that they are there, as you are aware of the grasses and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the sky and the winds and the sun. And I would invite you to truly open your eyes to see. To look at a blade of grass in its unique beauty, different from another blade of grass. Each flower unique in its own way. Harold and Maude had a scene, if you've ever seen that, where Harold picks up a daisy and talks about being a daisy because there's so many daisies and he's just one more. And Maude pulls up that daisy and another and says, look how different they are. That's an illusion that it's all the same. So open your eyes to see those differences to see the beauty of each in its own right. Each tree, each bee, each butterfly, each bird, and then each person. Notice that first look, and then what it's like to deepen your look, to look from your heart to theirs. And then you feel your heart calling on you to seek the beloved, to see the face, the presence, to have that intimacy with the beloved. And as you walk around, let your consciousness awaken, let your heart look fully to seek that beloved, however that beloved is revealed to you in this moment. There is no right or wrong way, but however the beloved is revealed for you, let your heart take you to the place, the person, the blade of grass, the cloud, the whatever connects you with the beloved most fully. Technically, everything can connect you with the beloved. Everything is the beloved. In this moment, what especially lights up in your relationship to the beloved? And then when you find that something that gets your heart fluttering and happy, that feels like, yes, I am dwelling in you, I am gazing upon you in a particularly special way, beloved. Take a few moments to speak from your heart to the beloved. Wish to go back to this, to have a longer conversation, to truly open your heart, intimately connecting, intimately sharing, intimately gazing on the beauty. And then you hear the sound of the shofar, the loud, long blast. And it feels like something awakens, something cracks you open in the best of ways to open even further in that intimacy, to recognize that divinity that is always within you, always with you, always in communion and relationship with you. That shofar wipe away whatever keeps you from seeing, and wipe away whatever keeps you from hearing. Take a nice, easy breath with gratitude for this field, for this time, for what is awakened. An awakening. And gently stretch and open your eyes. And I would invite you If you have a field to go out in, or somewhere that feels wonderful, it can even be a park with all those people, or it can be a woods, or to let yourself go somewhere and truly open your eyes and truly open your heart and be in communion with the divine, however that feels, looks, sounds to you. Let yourself go into an intimate place of communicating, of sharing your heart with the beloved. Shabbat Shalom, Sabbath blessings. Happy Elul.